crunch punches.
Get down to the Giants. Gretzky ran 65 yards. This time he fumbles the ball.
You must be out of your goddamn mind. What the hell is wrong with you people? Cram it up your cram hole, LaFleur.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Victory Monday. Once again, where your Minnesota Vikings have moved on to 14-2 with a 27-25 victory over the Green Bay Packers yesterday at US Bank Stadium. Norsefius, good evening. Good evening, everybody watching. The game ended up a lot closer than it really needed to be. And the final box score actually looked a lot closer than what the game was to be, for the most part. Good evening, Doc. Vikings had this game pretty much in hand up until about 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Up until about that point, Jordan Love only had 64 yards passing. The Vikings defense, they got him confused early on, and stuff was just off for Green Bay for most of the game up until the very end there. And then I don't know if it was a switch in what Flores was calling. I think that was probably some of it that kind of let off the gas again, which one of these times they are going to learn not to let off the gas on Green Bay, because the minute you do, they come back. They did it yesterday. They did it earlier in the year, but thankfully, again, at the end, the Vikings were able to put together enough of a drive to run the clock out and secure the victory. Moving on to, as I said, 14-2, sending Green Bay home. And then on top of that, with the Washington Commanders winning last night, Green Bay no longer controls its own destiny for playoff seeding. Right now, they would be the 7 seed. Washington being at the 6. And then, of course, the loser of the Vikings-Lions game next week would be the 5 seed. So playoff picture kind of coming into focus a little bit. Gary, good evening. Josh, good evening. Still some finagling to go as far as the playoff stuff. There's not all the seats are secure yet. And after retract my opinion on Cam Akers, yeah, you and Ted Glover both. Ted backtracked it on the post-game show with them yesterday, but as it sits right now, the Rams would be the 3 seed. So, and then it comes down to whoever wins the NFC South, which right now is looking like Tampa Bay. They control their own destiny. So as long as they beat, I think they're playing New Orleans on Sunday, they will win the South. Drew, good evening, my friend. Doc, this is a great point here. As fans starting to feel confidence, the team just didn't feel that worried against the Packers. Yeah, I didn't either. When it got down to it, I told Brunswick, and him and I were talking back and forth during the game, that if we don't quit dinking around here, we are going to have problem. But Rhino does hate the Lions. We all hate the Lions. Yeah, I love me some Sam Darnold. That guy has proven everything that he had to prove this year, that he's, become a viable quarterback in the NFL. He, again, yesterday, calm under pressure, was, did not get rattled, did not, when he threw that interception, which was a bad pass, he, should not have thrown that ball. But, and he sat there and said, okay, the key is going to be how does he respond after that? And the next time we got the ball back, Darnold just calmly marched us down the field and scored a touchdown. So, that's the key thing I've noticed with Darnold this year, as opposed to in years past. When something bad happens, he does not let it eat on him. To Ryan's point here, bringing up our old buddy Kirk Cousins, when something bad would happen to Cousins, it would eat at him and it would get inside his own head and it would make things, go worse and you couldn't get away from it. But Darnold has been able to put that away and just keep on moving. So that, good evening there, Dave. Think Sam's more than viable, finally playing a potential. Gotta love it. Absolutely. And the story is not over yet. We still have a few chapters in that book left to write for this year. Going into Detroit for all the marbles this week. Of course, flexed to Sunday night football in the Motor City. Detroit, of course, playing on Monday night football right now, or in a few minutes. The kickoff will happen. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Dan Campbell had said that his starters are going to play and they're going to play to win the game, just like any other game. To quote the classic movie line from Dodgeball, that's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for them, because the Lions have nothing to play for tonight. If they lose, they can still win the 1 seed and the North by winning next week. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me for him to be playing their starters. Now, far be it from me to argue with Dan Campbell, I guess, but, something bad happens if Jahmyr Gibbs or Jared Goff get hurt tonight. I think there would be a lot of questions that would need to be answered. Skull for life. Good evening, 14-2. Let's go. Absolutely. George, good evening. Doc, even the game against the Lions, I'm not scared. I'm not either, Doc. And that's the thing. I had a little bit of a pit in my stomach before the Packer game yesterday, but after the first drive, it was gone. And I'm like, we got this. And it's wild winning because of our quarterback. Yeah, Riley, you are not wrong. Deborah, good evening. Thanks for joining the show. Sam's game, he's constantly looking for the down. Yeah, he is. And that's the thing. He's all until the last till the last minute, he's looking to try to find a way to get the ball down the field. And that's, something a lot of guys don't do. They're either going to tuck it and try to run with it, or they're going to, just throw it away or take the sack. I mean, Darnold does hold the ball quite a while. Part of that is because we run a lot of deep plays that take a little while to develop. So, but I do have to give a little credit to the offensive line yesterday, because they've been much maligned by us, and with good reason. But for the most part, they gave Darnold the time that he needed yesterday. I think he got sacked once, but there was pressure in there. But they gave him enough time to be able to move around and find targets down the field. Career high 377 yards on 43 attempts yesterday for Sam, along with the 3 touchdowns, of course, the 1 interception as well. Lions, they don't have starters. They have an injury list. The Lions, I'm not sleeping on the Lions one bit. We've all heard about the wounded animal kind of thing that, and Detroit is a good football team. I, as much as it pains me to say it, they are a good football team. And They could just as easily beat us as we could beat them next week. But to Doc's point a little bit ago, I'm fully confident in this team's abilities to go get it done. So Sam's a cold-blooded long-range sniper. Yes, he is absolutely Northvia's skull for life. Darnold thought to be the weakest link beginning of the season is now the golden child. I mean, by the national media, yeah, the old takes exposed are starting to filter in, these things about the Vikings, ending up with the number 1 overall pick and, 4 wins or 6 wins. Hoping the Niners tenderize the kittens. If Detroit is going to have an off game, I hope it's next week, not tonight. I couldn't care less because it does not matter. Detroit, like I said, Detroit can win and be tied with us, and the winner next week gets the 1 seed. Detroit could lose, and the winner next week still gets the 1 seed. So, Dave, they had to explain the Lions' offense is rhythm-based. They don't want to lose the rhythm by resting their starters. I understand that, but and Dan Campbell has always been a gambler and being aggressive on this kind of stuff, but you run that risk. I mean, is that a risk you're willing to take to lose potentially a Jahmyr Gibbs or a Jared Goff or one of your left tackle or something like that in a meaningless game tonight? That's, to me, I would have a hard time doing it if it was me. I understand you want to try to win everything and not upset the apple cart, but credit to the offensive line. Middle line was Clancy collapsing. Yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't say it was good. I'm talking about in comparison to what it has been typically. They were better yesterday against a good Packers defense, a good front seven that they have. Good thing. One thing going against Detroit, beginning to Goff early enough. And the problem is Jared Goff seems to have our blitz packages figured out pretty well. So you're going to have to get there with your base package rush, I think, or disguise how you're doing things a little bit more. Now, I think Flores can get something cooked up for that. You look at yesterday, the defense they came out playing against Green Bay was different than what they played against them the last time. So they had them confused. They were bringing different looks from different angles. I forget who it was. Might have been Jonathan Grenard that they were talking to after the game and said that, the teams, are starting to figure out, when they come in this alignment, this is how they're going to do it and stuff. So they've been working on flipping things around and coming at it from different angles and stuff to try to get that disguise going again. And yesterday it seemed to help. Still have not played a full 60-minute game. No, we have not. We played about a 53-minute game yesterday. And in that last 6-7 minutes, we had to hang on for dear life. But containing Gibbs, yeah, that's going to be the big thing, Riley. I agree with that. Jahmyr Gibbs, was one of the big reasons why we lost that first game. That big long run he broke off. Plus, he just had our number the last time. So Office Space reference. Gotta love that. We'll bring that in. Yeah, I agree with that 100%, Ryan. I don't want to go into that prevent at all. I mean, it's always boggled my mind as, okay, you're running a defensive scheme that has been working for 3.5 quarters. Let's just go away from it, go into a prevent, and then just let them start marching down the field. Now keep doing what you've been doing and make them beat you. Make them work for it. Don't just start rolling over and giving up at that point. Susan, good evening. That's one thing that irks me. And that's why a lot of these games that we've played this year have ended up as one-score games, because we jump out early and then we take our foot off the gas. We got to quit doing that, especially getting into the playoffs. If you go up by 3 scores early on, then you go out the next drive, you try to make it 4 scores. And then you try to make it 5 scores. And you keep hammering and you keep hammering, because if you do that in the playoffs, you're going to get knocked out. It's going to come back. Somebody's going to beat you doing that. So you got to keep your foot on the gas. And I've preached that for the entirety of the 4 years that Brunswick and I have been doing these shows. But yeah, it is what it is. Pull a San Francisco prevent. Yeah. Pat Jones is out. Turner's the next guy up. Absolutely he is. He was getting more run the last few weeks anyway, because he's earned it. They've been talking about how, the light switch has clicked a lot more in practice, and he's been making plays out on the field. I mean, he, was involved yesterday. Last week had the interception, had a sack against the Bears. So, yeah, I mean, we're not going to miss a beat with Pat Jones being out. It sucks that Jones went down, especially on the, the questionable hit Tucker Kraft went at, pulled a Kirby Joseph on his knees. But that wasn't called a penalty yet. Harrison Smith putting his shoulder pads in a guy's stomach is an illegal block below the waist. I don't know. I'm not going to start bitching about the officiating, because the Packers fans have been losing their minds on Twitter, X, and all social media for the last 24 hours about that offsides on that field goal at the end of the first half. And, I don't want to sink down to their level. We'll let them sit there and cry and whine about the officiating, which is hilarious, because we all know Green Bay has gotten the benefit of the calls for the last 30 years. So, yeah, he started to roll after we started playing that loose coverage. Yeah, he had 64 yards midway through the fourth quarter. 64. I mean, we had him freaking shut down. And Josh Jacobs only ran for 69 yards. He had that fumble right off the get-go, and then they kind of went away from the run game, which really surprised me, because that's how Green Bay's offense operates, is going through Josh Jacobs to help set up the pass, and they went away from it. Kind of a bit puzzling on LaFleur's part there, but hey, worked out in our favor, so I'm not going to bitch about it. Cheese and wine figures. Yep. Good evening, Stephen. Glad to see you again. Brian, good evening. Huge win. Absolutely huge win. Of course, if you listen to Packers fans, it is, they're congratulating us on winning our Super Bowl again. That same, it's just funny. Packers fans are so predictable. They have, it's like the old Bill Musgrave index card offensive play sheet. They have about 3 or 4, slams that they'll just use every damn time when they lose. Oh, congratulations on winning your Super Bowl. Or if so-and-so wasn't hurt, we'd have won. Or, they can never just say, hey, we got outplayed by a better team, which is what happened yesterday. Packer fans sitting in front of me yesterday kept yelling no love. To my surprise, they didn't say anything to me. They probably didn't understand it. That, they're a little slow on the acknowledgments there sometimes. I don't know if at the game. I know Dan. Good evening. Sung love stinks to him. Yeah. Let's win 3 Super Bowls this. Yeah, that's what I told the one Packer fan yesterday. I'm like, hey, if if the Vikings and Packers playing together are our Super Bowl, we won the Super Bowl twice this year, and then we're going for the hat trick. We're going to go to the actual one and win that one now. So, yeah, it's just, it's their stuff is just so old and tired, and they think they're getting under our skin, but dude, it's the same freaking stuff that you've said for the last 30 years. Nobody cares. Good evening, Nympha. Sadly, if Packers fans, it wasn't that hard to beat them. No, that GMAC, that's very good. I thought Green Bay was going to put up more of a fight than they did. Now, again, the last 6 minutes notwithstanding, they look like they had no answers for anything. And we just let them in. Update: Detroit defense getting torched. Oh, really? Old and tired, just like the Super Bowl wins. Yeah. Like the saying goes, how many Packer fans does it take to turn it or screw in a light bulb? 6, 1 to actually put the light bulb in, and 5 more to talk about how great the old one was. Good morning, Nympha from watching from the Philippines. Early morning over there. Well, it's not early morning. I guess it's like 9:30. Packers fans base is one of the dumbest. Yeah. Oh, I had one guy send me a picture of an empty trophy case. Like that's gonna. Oh, boy, you got me there. Oh God, not that one. Oh, I'm gonna have to go cry now because you sent me a picture of an empty trophy case. I'm going to say this right now, just to any Green Bay fans who might be hate watching in the background and not really saying anything about it. There is nothing that you guys can say that's going to get under our freaking skin, especially since we beat you twice this year. And I know that just eats on you. We live rent free in your head for the next 9 months, or at least if we happen to meet you in the playoffs, which honestly, I believe that if Green Bay ends up a 7 seed, they're going to go to Philadelphia and get their asses handed to them anyway. But 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks for 30 years, and all you got was 2. Yeah, I mean, you'd have thought with that kind of quarterback play that you would have been able to get more than 2 Super Bowls. Now, yeah, it's still 2 Super Bowls, but for as great as the Packers fans have been telling us that they are for so long, only 2. 1 to screw in the light bulb and 5 to say, I'm an owner. Dominated them until too late. Yeah, never as close to final score. No, it wasn't. And, we made it we made it interesting at the end. Shouldn't have been, but hey, a win counts the same whether it's or by 20 points. So, we're going to take it. And, hey, we got a game for all the marbles on Sunday Night Football, NFC North, the 1 seed, and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Yeah, just looking at a few more things from the game yesterday. This was the 16th game. Every game so far this season, the Minnesota Vikings have caused a turnover. Only team in the league to do it. Kirby Joseph with a cheap shot again. Shock. That's all that guy does. He's the dirtiest fucking player in the league. I cannot stand that guy. And I don't wish injuries on anybody, but one of these days, somebody is going to take him out because he's done more than enough taking other players out. So no one can hurt me more than my own team. Yeah, you're right on that one, Riley. Small scrum with the Niners game. Joseph should be booted. Cam Akers, Jalen Naylor got game balls. Yeah, Jalen Naylor had himself a hell of a game yesterday. Was not the leading receiver. Justin Jefferson ended up being the leading receiver. He had, I think, 6 for 96, I think it was. Naylor had 81 yards, I think it was. And Addison had 69, but Joseph, third guy, and smacks the receiver in the. Yep. Thanks for joining, Norris Fist. We'll catch you on the flip side. But yeah, the Vikings played, as the comment brought a little bit earlier, up until that last 6 minutes, they played a complete game yesterday. The defense was doing its job. Green Bay really had no answer for the scheme that Flores was throwing. The offense was playing well against a very good Green Bay defense. One thing that they did say is that they expected Green Bay to come out and play a lot of man right off the get-go, and they came out playing more zone instead. So it did take them a little bit, when they saw that, to try to make some adjustments. And that's, where the started off a little slow there in the first quarter. But hey, Dave, good evening. Long time no see. Niners score already. All right. Jennings just blocked a Lion player out of the back of the end zone. San Francisco touchdown. Sweet. I guess what I'm guessing the Detroit offense hasn't been on the field yet, but Kevin, good evening. Love to see the Vikes and the Bills in the Super Bowl, two of the best. I think of all the teams out there, that that would probably be the most intriguing matchup. I think 2-0-4s going at it. Playing Buffalo would be a definite challenge because they're a hell of a team and Josh Allen is a hell of a player. But let's get there first, and then we get there, I don't care who we face, and we'll deal with it then. I sent it yesterday and thought it was strange, but Richard's missed kick to put us up 20 changed the momentum. Yeah, it definitely. He missed 2 kicks yesterday that kind of changed things a little bit, and there's a lot of stuff. Do we need to be concerned about Reichert? Was he 7 for 12 in the last 5 games? So he's had some issues, since he's come back. Of course, he had the 2 misses in that game that he got hurt as well. But I think Reichert's going to be fine. We'll see, I guess, hopefully whatever his issues were, he's not off by much because, like I said, yesterday, he banked the one off the crossbar that was 57-yarder. That's a hard kick to make. It's, should have had enough leg for it, but just barely. The other one bounced off the upright. Then he did miss a third one, on that offsides just before halftime that they gave him another shot from 5 yards in, and he hit it twice because they called a timeout right before he kicked it the first time. But Niners are pissed off now. Yeah, that's going to happen. Detroit has been playing with fire, and they're go out there, think they're going to bully people around them. You know what happens when you got a bully? You walk up to him and you punch him in the face. And San Francisco punches him in the face tonight. More power to them. As long as we win a Super Bowl. Yeah, I'm exactly the same point with that, Ant. I don't care who we face. I don't care who we face in the playoffs and win. I have confidence if this team, if we win the 1 seed, I have confidence that anybody coming into US Bank that we can beat anybody in the field and on the NFC side. We get to the Super Bowl. This team has proven that it can play with anybody. And then it's just going to come down to, probably a couple of plays here and there. But the Vikings with all these, the people are giving the Vikings shit about all these 1-score games. Oh yeah, you guys are frauds because you're not blowing people out. League-wide, 80% of the games are 1-score wins. 80%. So the thing with the Vikings playing, these 2, 3, 4 point wins, they're battle tested. We've seen it. We've gone down like against Arizona. We needed a drive. Darnold walks out there, pulls his hat down, goes to work, gets us a game-winning drive. We did it against the Bears in overtime. We did it yesterday, getting the drive to, seal the game. We did it against Seattle last week. It's, we are never out of a game. And I don't think the players on our team never think that they're out of the game. So and that's going to be key when it comes into the playoffs. I don't care what anybody else says. Until he starts yanking PAT, he's not going to match. Yeah, you're right, Riley. And I'm not too concerned about it either. Riker to get it together. Yeah, he's not missing chip shots. Exactly. What do you got here, Ant? Saw videos of Darius Smith saying before the game that don't get scared now. Yeah. Is Darius even playing, or is he injured again? I don't know. They got 35 players injured on their defense, but I'm not worried about him either, Jarrett. The guy plays good for half a season and then he pretty much disappears. So almost rather face a confident Lions after an easy Monday night W than an angry Lions after an L. Kind of my thought too, Riley. I was thinking about that earlier, that, if they if they lose tonight, get their asses handed to them, then they're going to have a little bit more, maybe more fight next week. Or maybe the injuries and stuff are starting to reach up, and Detroit's going to, Minnesota is peaking at the right time. Maybe Detroit peaked a month ago, and now, it's starting to fall back the other way. Bosa's a beast. He absolutely is a beast. Both the Bosa boys, but yeah, Nick Bosa, he's a hell of a player. But I mean, we got 4 guys of our edge rush group that are damn good too. Grenard and Van Ginkel again yesterday. Very disruptive. Van Ginkel getting half a sack. He shared the one with Cashman. Grenard didn't get a sack yesterday, but he got in there for several pressures. I was looking at the number earlier and I forgot to write it down. But having Ivan Pace back yesterday made a big difference, I think. But I still can't. You can't say enough. I mean, I know Van Ginkel and Grenard are getting all the accolade and stuff from what they're doing on the outside, but the effect that Blake Cashman has had on this team cannot be understated. He got a game ball yesterday, 1.5 sacks. He had 11 tackles. The guy he's running that defense. He's in, all over the field. They use him coming up the middle on stunts and blitzes and that kind of stuff. He may be even more important of a signing than Grenard and Van Ginkel, and both of them have been key. I mean, the free agent class that Kwesi brought in here this year is just phenomenal. I mean, it's got to be one of the better free agency classes, not just from the Viking standpoint, but in the league in a long time. Off the top of my head, I can't think of another team that got this many impact players in on free agency and to have it all click. I mean, yeah, we know, several years ago, Philly tried to buy a Super Bowl, brought in all these big name players and stuff like that, and that didn't really work out. Dallas has tried it a few times. It isn't really working out. But when the Vikings did this year, it's not going out and getting the biggest name guys that they could get. It was, again, these guys who, have been a little under the radar. Guys that have played really well. They're coming off their first contract, and they need a spot where maybe a little bit of a change of scenery. Maybe they're playing behind somebody, at their old team and not getting enough of the playing time. And they've hit on so many of these. Harrison Phillips coming from Buffalo as a backup. He's been a stalwart on this line ever since he's been here. Cashman, Van Ginkel. Yesterday, Shaq Griffin and Gilmore both played very well. Byron Murphy got called for a really ticky-tack pass interference, which I don't agree with either. But, that's another one of those. Jahmyr Gibbs just gashed him. Yeah, Gibbs is a definite problem next week. We've got to shut him down. We did not do a good job of it the first meeting with Detroit. So that is going to have to be a key. And yeah, getting Jared Goff off his marks. It's going to have to. We can't. The blitzes have got to be well timed and disguised well, because otherwise Goff is going to pick them apart. For some reason, Jared Goff has seemed to have Flores's number over the years. Don't know why, but sometimes it's just one guy has things figured out over that. So he's going to have to come up with something a little different for next week. I'm sure he's sitting there in his office at TCO right now working on that. So we'll find out. Lions march right down the field, tied at 7. Yeah. Need to figure out how to stop the Lions 6-man fronts. Yeah. I mean, their defensive line, they're not getting a ton of pass rush out there right now because they don't really have much. McNeil hurt. Half their team, Hutchinson could be back if they make it to the Super Bowl, but that's about it. Oh, they blocked the PAT. Sweet. I will take that. But yeah, Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores have their work cut out for them this week to figure out a game plan to go in there. But I have the full confidence that these guys are going to figure it out. Turnovers and points off turnovers. Yeah, absolutely. But we did see, Jared Goff earlier in the season threw 5 interceptions in one game and still end up winning the damn game. So if you get those, you have to make the most out of them. And that's the big thing. They just did a 7-man front 2 plays ago. Don't see that very often. The Vikings did a few of them yesterday where they had about 7-8 guys up on the line of scrimmage. And then, of course, just to show it, and then they back out of it. But, they're 6-man offensive line. Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, Detroit's offensive line, it's one of the best in the league. I'm not going to dispute that, and I'm going to give them their credit where credit is due, is because they have a damn good offensive line. Gilmore, huge liability. I don't know. Is he the player that he once was? No. But he's still, he's still serviceable. He's still making plays. I thought he played pretty well yesterday for the most part. Kept most stuff in front of him. We're switching the man and the zone up so that, some of these times when these guys are making catches on him, it's in a spot in the zone where, they're kind of transitioning from one spot to the other. I don't know Gilmore will be back next year, but with all the situations that we had at cornerback this year, he's came in and he's done what we needed him to do anyway. He's done a decent job, and for the most part, he's served his purpose. Shaq Griffin, I think, has been very quietly one of the a very good corner this year. We rarely hear his name. Stephen, good evening. Another new name. Thanks for joining. Zero Dark Darnold and company. This team is out of a movie. Something special about it. Just got to keep the foot on the gas. Yeah, the same. Yeah, we've been talking about that, and I feel the same way on that. It's right now. I have the confidence that the Vikings can go anywhere or play anyone, and they can win the game. They've shown this year they can play with anyone. This is not 2022 where it was a lot of smoke and mirrors because we were covering up a god awful freaking defense that Ed Donatel was running. This is a legit team with a legit top 10 defense and a legit top 10 offense. And you put those two together and you can go places. Well, I mean, he played. They only gave up 64 yards passing through 3.5 quarters. So, I mean, he did his job for the most part. On the back end, when they started racking up the yards, those last two drives, is because they were playing back and doing soft coverage and stuff. And that's when, a lot of those stuff he gave up was garbage time. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, Jer. Flores' defense is predicated on getting pressure on the quarterback. You don't typically have those he hasn't really ever had those shutdown corners in his arsenal. You got guys that, hopefully they can play a little man bump and run, but a lot of times you end up playing zone, and provided the pressure gets there, then that's fine. But I mean, you give a quarterback 4 or 5 seconds to throw the ball, he's going to pick apart a lot of cornerbacks. Don't have them waiting for the shoe to drop. I agree, Dan. Will it happen? It might. But for some reason this year, I'm not sitting here fretting about it every week. And I mean, if it happens during the playoffs, am I going to be upset? Yes, I'm going to be upset. But the feeling I have this year, I don't feel like, that feeling of gloom that's hovered over, for so many years and everything. It's a different feeling, and this is a different team. The players have Harrison Smith, who's been around forever, has said, that this team feels different. Aaron Jones has come out and said this is the most special team he's ever been a part of. And the guys are having fun, and they're playing hard for each other. I mean, I'm sure you guys saw that, the locker room thing after the game. Darnold, it took a little while for him to come in because he had the interview with Tom Brady and stuff afterwards. But, he comes in, they shower him with freaking water bottles and had him up on their shoulders and everything else. It's when you see that kind of stuff in the locker room, that these guys are going to go to war and they're going to have each other's backs no matter what happens. So if something bad happens, they're not hanging their heads. They're not going off in the corner. They're like, that's all right. We got it. Next time we'll pick you up and let's go back and get to it. And so far they have been doing it. Pearsall with a JJ type catch. I like Ricky Pearsall. I mean, I think he's going to be a good player. Combination of cast and pace is his best backer group in the. They're right there. Like I said, Blake Cashman could be the defensive MVP on this team. He hasn't gotten a lot of notoriety, especially. I mean, Vikings fans, of course, know his significance, but league wide, just like everybody else in the Vikings, they're kind of flying underneath the radar. But Cashman has been, I think, I'm starting to think he's been the best pickup that we got this year. And that's saying something. Enjoy the magical season where I'm supposed to win 6.5 games with Sam just to be a bridge quarterback. Exactly, Dave. And that's just it. We're almost playing with house money, because we've already exceeded all expectations of the national media. But we have not exceeded the expectations of this team of Kevin O'Connell, of Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, of the players. And that's what makes this team so dangerous, I think, is because they're hungry. They know they can see the prize out in front of them. I mean, how many times in the past would we have dropped either the game to Seattle or the game yesterday to Green Bay and taken ourselves out of that controlling our own destiny? How many times over the years have the Vikings controlled their own destiny late in the year only to screw it up and then have to rely on somebody else? This week, we have nobody else that we have to worry about. We don't have to sit there and scoreboard watch hoping that Philadelphia loses. We don't have to scoreboard watch hoping that Washington beats somebody, those guys, and Tampa Bay loses or ties and this, that, and everything else. All we got to go out and do on Sunday is take care of our business, ignore everything else, and everything takes care of itself, because it's on us to put us in that position. If we win that game, we are home through the playoffs. We get a first round bye, and we have a shorter trek to the Super Bowl, and probably an easier trek because you put yourself in a position to where hopefully some of these other good teams take each other out. If you lose, you end up being the number one wild card spot. You will go most likely to Tampa Bay wild card weekend, which there again, I don't have much concerns of going into Tampa Bay and not being able to win. So no matter how next weekend plays out, I'm here for it until the very end, whether it's in February or whether it's the division round, whether it's the wild card round, whenever. Yep, Steven, exactly. Playing for Kyrie, that's a very good point. There's something to be said for that too, because, just the that whole situation surrounding that, and the fact that, they still have Kyrie Jackson's locker sitting there every week with his uniform and helmet and everything in there. Aaron Jones says he goes in and puts flowers in his locker every week before the game. They wearing the Kyrie, the KJ stickers on the helmets, and the coaches all have the pin on it and stuff. I mean, the kid wasn't here very long, but I mean, he definitely had an impact on the team, and they're playing with a purpose for them. Winning is fun. It absolutely is, Brian. This is the most fun I've had watching it. I mean, like you said, 14 wins are going to make anybody happy during the regular season. But it's been so enjoyable, especially since nobody's giving us a chance. They're being forced to start taking note now. I'm still seeing Detroit opening up as I think it was a 3-point favorite I saw today. But, I'm going to be interested to see what, some of these national pundits say, because, they haven't been giving the Vikings credit at all. And all I have to say is, fuck you guys. We don't need your approval. We don't need your adoration or your attention. You want to doubt the Minnesota Vikings, you go right ahead and fucking doubt the Minnesota Vikings. And we are going to go out. We're going to just keep doing what we're doing. They're playing for each other. They've got each other's backs. And it boils down again to Kevin O'Connell's mantra: be at your best when your best is required. And this week, your best is going to be required to get that number 1 seed. Yep, absolutely. You go 1-0 every week. Don't worry about 4 or 5 game, 5-game winning streak. No, 9-game winning streak, whatever. No, the only streak that matters is going 1-0 each week. And so far, I mean, we've been doing that. Similars between Cashman and Greenway. Cashman, I think he's got more speed and more get to the ball than Greenway did. I love Chad Greenway. No mark on that. But I think Cashman, at least in this system, has a potential to be better And that's, Chet Greenway is a Ring of Honor guy, and he's, one of the better Vikings players that has been, they've had for a long time. But I think Cashman's that good, and especially in this system. Now, in a different system, maybe things are different, but losing someone, even a teammate's hard. The fact KOC's rallied this team around each other and brought them together. Seeing the proud dad moment. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's, and that's the thing. It takes a little while to build a culture. This is year 4, but we're there now. We have that culture. You see it with Kevin O'Connell, what he's done with Sam Darnold this year, turning Sam from a first round bust from, another long line of first round busts into a guy who should be in the MVP conversation. He's not going to win it, but he goddamn should be in that MVP conversation. This is not just a Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Saquon Barkley type thing. He absolutely needs to be in that conversation. Jared Goff should be in that conversation. But, and then, you see Daniel Jones getting released from the Giants after, the things all went horribly wrong. There had a chance to go be a starting quarterback. Granted, it was the Vegas Raiders wanted him to come in and be their starter right from the get-go. And he said, no, I want to go to Minnesota and sit and learn from Kevin O'Connell and fix myself. That says something right there, and they're constantly getting the top 2 or 3 grades in the league as far as facilities and ownership and coaching and management. Greenway was a straw that stirred the drink. Yeah, he was. He was a hell of a player here for a long time. But, some of the guys we got now are in that same vein. Cashman is right there. Ivan Pace, he's still a little bit raw, and he's still got to learn to control that pit bull a little bit. But, he's very good. It's the culture. It's the team. 14-6, San Francisco. I like that. I don't want to be the favorite. Let us be underdogs. I kind of agree with you on that, Brian. I like the fact when people doubt us, because it always seems like Minnesota plays better when nobody believes in them. So, again, that's, I'm not going to start, oh my God, the sky is falling if people start turning around and fawning over the Vikings, but hoping the Niners expose some Lions' weaknesses for us. Yeah, and it sounds like to this point that they are doing so. I don't have the game on down here in the studio, but I'm going to go take a watch to it after bit. Who's not in the MVP conversation? It makes me happy. Aaron. Yeah. Oh, but I don't know if did they bench him yesterday, or did he bench himself at the end of the game? I don't know, but it is completely falling apart in New York. Garrett Wilson sounds like he's basically made it be known that if Rodgers comes back next year, he doesn't want to be there because he's pissed that Rodgers brought in all of his buddies, and all of a sudden Garrett Wilson went from wide receiver 1 to, wide receiver 2/3. Most valuable player, which ought to affect the team the most? I'm sorry, but darn. Yeah. Darnold, I think, is probably team MVP. He's not going to win the league MVP. He deserves to be in the conversation, but he's not going to, because people still have that. It's the same reason why Jim Marshall hasn't made the damn Hall of Fame, because people have that stigma and that thought in their mind, oh, Jim Marshall's the guy that ran the wrong way down the field, and blah, 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 blah. Sam Darnold's the guy that was seeing ghosts in New York and, this, that, and everything else. And Sam Darnold might have been seeing ghosts in New York, but he's become a ghost buster in Minnesota. So, it's just a culmination of things going on here with this team that I'm here for it. We beat the Packers twice this year. We beat the Bears twice this year. We lost the first game to the Lions. We have a chance to earn a season split with them. So that's another big thing for next Sunday. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on the line here. I mean, the nice fact is, even if we lose, we're still in the playoffs. It's not one of those situations where, you lose and you're out. But this is going to be the first time where teams with this many wins have faced themselves in a game. I mean, the Vikings already have 14, and depending upon what happens tonight, Detroit's either going to have 13 or 14. So you got 27 or 28 wins going against each other next Sunday. And a 14 and potentially a 14-3 team will be the 5 seed and a wild card. That's just baffling how that kind of happens, but it just shows how good, and that for some reason the league is a lot less parity this year than in years past. You've got your teams that are right up at the top. You've got Minnesota, Detroit, Philly, Buffalo, Kansas City, and then you've got a few teams that are in the middle. But then you've got 6-8 teams that are sitting there with like 4 wins. I mean, yesterday the Giants had the number 1 overall pick spot. They won the game, and now because of that, they're in a 6th spot. So it's been kind of a wonky year, but maybe it takes a wonky year to for something good to happen. So I'm, like I said, I'm here. I'm for it. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to Sunday. The only thing is it's a Sunday night, so we're going to have to sit there and wait all day Sunday for the game. So, that's waiting all day for Sunday night. We're all going to be sitting there waiting all day, and that's going to be a big thing. Do playoff seeding based on win records. Division leaders still getting the playoffs, but seeding's changed. I go back and forth on that. I see the argument, but I also see the point of, if you win your division, that should be worth something. Yeah. I'm not going to take a strong stance either way on it because I can see both points, but first thing I did yesterday after 1-1 on X said thank you to the Panthers, Jets, and Niners for sleeping on Darnold. Yeah, I mean, Sam Darnold does credit, working with San Francisco last year, sitting for a year under Shanahan, and I mean, it's the same system basically that we run, or a variant of it. So, yeah, 49ers helped fix Darnold. That's exactly what I was going to get at there, Dan. Was a free agent, wasn't going to start over Purdy. Here he has a chance to start. Bosa good, yeah, Bosa very good. But yeah, I mean, we kind of a little jab at the Packers unintentionally tonight. Come out, we were going to talk all about the game yesterday, but hey, 24-hour rule. I'm done talking about Green Bay, and it's going to piss Green Bay fans off even more if we stop talking about them now. So I'm done with Green Bay. We're moving on to Detroit. And Sunday night is for all the marbles. But we've been going on here for just about an hour. Still got almost 40 people in the chat. Thank you everybody for joining tonight. This is one of the bigger nights we've had for a while. Big things happening, of course, with the Vikings. And, we're here for it. Make sure you tune in later this week. Brunswick and I will have the pregame show for the Vikings and Lions. Not sure exactly what night it'll be. It'll either be Friday night or Saturday night. I'm not quite sure when yet, but just stay tuned. We will keep you posted on that. My voice just cracked. I apologize for that as well. But just want to thank you guys. Great conversation as always in the chat. A lot of new faces tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining. If you haven't done so, make sure you go and like and subscribe on the YouTube channel, on Facebook. We're now broadcasting the stream on Twitter X as well, so you can catch us over there as well. Make sure you give us a follow on Twitter. At Vikes Uncensored is the Twitter handle. I'm on there a lot interacting, so if you see it, the Vikings Uncensored Twitter going on, that's me. Feel free to say hi, interact. Like I said, like and follow helps us out on all this stuff. And we're going to be here for the rest of the Viking season, no matter how long it goes. And then after the season, we're going to keep on going because the draft isn't too far away. Free agency is not too far away. So there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about. But we're not worried about any of that right now because we have a 14-2 football team. We have a chance for the number 1 seed, and we have a chance to do even greater things come February. So with that, thank you again, everybody. Go enjoy the Monday Night Football game, and let us see if San Francisco can knock down Detroit a peg or two. Maybe learn us a few things about how to attack them next week, and we will see you later this week for the pregame show. Again, most interactive pregame show that you're going to find on Viking social media. Bring your comments, bring your questions. Shout out to the Filipino fan club always, of course. I can't forget them. But with that, you guys have a great evening, and we will see you later. Skol Vikes. Let's go get that number 1 seed.